Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Prodcast. This is episode 2, I believe. I said I believe when we're only on 2 episodes. But today we're going to have a few interesting topics. Again, we're just a few guys currently working in tech who just like to talk about tech. So we're chill, we're relaxed. If you have any questions after watching our videos, always reach out. But anyway, I'm here with my co-host. Of course, y'all know Mars, y'all know Charles. How y'all feeling
How's it
today?
going? Just chilling. Just finished a long work day, so.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm happy to be here for sure.
You know, I'm feeling particularly good because I pushed something to dev today. And before I didn't push it to prod, but I pushed it to dev. And it took me a few tries, but the last one, everything was successful. I saw all green. If you're in tech or you work in tech, then like if you see red, it's normally not good. You see green, that means you're mostly there. Today our topics are surrounding AI. We're having another AI discussion, of course, with all the hype around it. You guys can expect us to be kind of speaking on it more and more often. This might not even be hype. This might be a shift from the age of information. So, of course, we're going to include it in our discussion. As regular people, we just want to talk about how AI may be affecting us, where we see it going, things that scare us, things that excite us. So we definitely plan to kind of go over that in today's video, as well as the impact of the current tech layoffs. So when big tech is having such large layoffs, it doesn't just affect those people being laid off. It affects a lot of things, so we'll dive into that. We're also going to have like some fun discussion about things that maybe we should have gone into, or things that we would have gone into if we didn't go into tech,
Right.
Or if we started all over, what we would have done. But anyway, let's kick things off.
All right. So, I know you have a huge interest in the world of AI and everything around it. So I think you should, kick us off with our first topic.
Yeah, in AI, I get called crazy. A lot of people are starting to look at me a little different, but I've always been talking about AI ever since I was at the startup I was last year. Despite the fact that it was a different type of AI, it wasn't generative AI, but it was more machine learning, computer vision, but I was still amazed by it. And so I started to think about and imagine where this type of technology would take us. And so without diving into the world of quantum computing reaching the level of software, so the hardware reaching the level of software, just at a high level, I feel like there's going to be a huge shift, a societal shift in a lot of how we do our day to day. So a lot of people like to talk about all the job displacement that we might see, but even outside of the job displacement, the efficiencies that AI may bring, the trouble that it may bring. Scammers are calling people just so you can say hello, hi, and just talk to you. So then they can then train an AI model on your voice, so they can use your voice to call people in your family, and then make it seem like it's you. So they can say, hey, I'm in some trouble. I need you to go to the bank, send this money.
That's actually smart.
And that's dangerous too.
That is insane. So now we're getting to a point where we're going to have to start advising. If you don't know that number, don't even pick up. So not even if it says unknown. If you pick up, say hi, that should be it. If they're not responding, or if it's someone who you don't know, be like, can you get to the point? I don't even know what you're going to do to avoid something like that. Maybe even just educating every member in your family and saying, hey, if you get a call like this, just to prep. Because, we have, at the age we're at, we're having a lot of people in our family reaching that age where they might potentially fall for something like that. So it's up to us to make sure we're keeping them knowledgeable about those different tactics.
You know what we need to do?
What?
We need to start giving everybody in our family a code word. So, in case there's sensitive information being passed on, our family members can be like, "Wait, real quick before we continue, what's the code word?" Hang up the phone.
If you don't know that code word,
hang it up.
Bang it on
spam filter is going to be up a level. So you know how like Verizon or T-Mobile, they have their own like built-in spam filter.
likely.
Yeah. So I feel like that they're gonna have to up that in order to get past this AI scam.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a challenge because you're going to have to start using AI to combat that. Like,
Right.
Is the person breathing, for example, when you hear normally with a lot of the current level of AI that mimics speech, there's not like that natural breathing that you hear. It's just like straight talk. So even if it sounds like you, it doesn't really talk like you. But of course, I'm sure we're going to reach a level where that is achieved, where it sounds more like you.
Yeah.
What about in our actual like day-to-day? How do you see the benefits of AI, like even in tech, like where you work?
I mean, the obvious ChatGPT, as soon as that came into play,
The new Google.
it's been a game changer. The fact that you could type something in to your interface and it can spit something out in seconds of exactly what you need is crazy. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
Funny enough, I have a tech lead of sorts on my team, and I feel like I don't feel comfortable asking him questions anymore because I know he knows, like, hey, you have access to something that could answer this for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like that thing where, did you do your own research before you reached out with this question?
Right.
Exactly. Did you consult the GPTs?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's reaching
So
that
my
level.
quick take on it is deep learning and OpenAI. They actually came out with a course of prompt engineering. So it's not, back in like systems engineer days, we were basically called like glorified Googlers. Exactly. So now it's just like we're, I guess, glorified prompt engineers. It's a skill to have, actually, to prompt engineering, being able to ask ChatGPT or whatever, being able to ask any language model, prompting it for the code that you want, or infrastructure as code that you want, or whatever engineering that you're doing behind. So it's the actual skill now is it's called prompt engineering. So
Asking the right questions.
yeah, exactly. Because you can always like go in circles with ChatGPT and like keep asking it question after question to get what you want.
Yeah.
But if you initially set up that first prompt or that first question correctly, it saves you a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it's an actual skill now is asking AI the right question.
And you're seeing, like, on Twitter and other social media, people posting, oh, these are the best way to ask ChatGPT questions. And I find some of those useful, but for what I do, you really have to be knowledgeable in your field to be able to ask it the right question for it to tell it to you the right way. Because sometimes it'll tell you some convoluted way, so you might implement that or integrate what it told you. But then when someone more senior, if I'm looking at it, I'm gonna be like, hey, why did you do it this way? But if you were more knowledgeable in what the solution, what the end goal was, then you can look at the response and realize, oh, okay, I see where it's going, but I could reshape this prompt for it to give me something more accurate. So for more senior people, we know exactly what we need, but we may not want to spend the time, the company's time, writing something that we know we could just be able to look at and then implement in our own way. So we look at this and we're like, okay, this is not exactly what I needed to do. So from there, you can take it and be like, okay, I'll just do the rest. But if you can prompt it the right way,
right,
it will give you almost exactly what you need. Sometimes.
And that goes into like training the model. So the more that it sees, okay, this person asked this question, and then their very immediate question was to expand upon this subject within that first question, that's basically the training the model. So people who aren't in tech or aren't familiar with how AI works, and they're looking at like ChatGPT as like some bad thing, but you're still using it, you're basically training the model. So yeah.
And that leads me into something else that I always want to mention this. I always want to give the disclaimer that you always need to ensure that you are not entering any confidential information into ChatGPT. And this is not, and they'll tell you this when you're first even setting up your account, But in the event that they have some vulnerability that is exploited by some malicious user, they could potentially have access to whatever you prompted, whatever questions you asked ChatGPT, and that could give them insight into your personal life or even your organization. And so that is the biggest reason why I always recommend, even though it may be an inconvenience at times, to not put in any confidential information in the prompt. And Charles, I know you wanted to mention something, so I want to get back to that.
Just speaking on the topic that you were speaking on a few moments ago about the Chat GPT, it's almost similar to like a foreign language. If you know like 0% of French and you put something, you try to translate something in a translator, it's gonna do like the direct translation. It's not gonna do like you're in a real conversation. So if you say to somebody, they're gonna be lost. Like, I mean, I know what you're trying to say, but this is still wrong. So I was just gonna like compare it to that. It's a little similar.
That's a good way to compare it.
Some large company, they had an engineer who put in their personal information into some AI training model, and it now has become public information. So,
yeah. See, that's what you do not want, guys.
I would never even use that like on any of my work devices anyway. You know?
Do you think there's a thing called AI shame? And this is just a name I'm coining right now. Where did you come up with that, or did AI come up with that? Like, are you that smart, or is AI?
That's very common now. So, like reading descriptions, it's very easily to tell. Like, is this came from somebody, or is this AI?
Yeah, so what if they're just that talented? So now if you're that talented in writing, because another good thing that ChatGPT does is if you ask it to say something more concise, more intellectual, it can do that for you. So now if somebody's just good at writing, they don't even get credit. They're like, oh, is that AI who did that for you? I mean, no, it's me. So what are your thoughts on that? He said, prove it. Prove it was you.
Yeah.
Like if you're able to reproduce that same level of articulation, maybe.
But no, I mean, like, even when I write some software, like let's say I'm writing a script, and sometimes I'm like, yo, this is a beautiful script. And no, sometimes you have that script that just runs nice and smooth, and it does everything it needs to do, no errors, and it's repeatable. It'll run and not fail anytime. And now I'm concerned, like, oh, are they gonna think I use ChatGPT to make this? Is all me?
So for me, I think there's a way to tell, because it's just like you can tell if somebody Googled some of their code and pasted it. It's based off of how they flow. Like if they're using camel case, and then all of a sudden you see them use a different type of
casing,
a different type of casing formatting. It's like you can pretty much tell that they copy and pasted that. So I think it's the same with AI generated code. Like if you see a certain flow in the beginning of the code and then see it change during the end, that's pretty much how you can tell.
And then what's going to be the balance with that? Do you not bash them like, man, you ain't even write that code? Like, dang.
More power to them, because our goal in tech, or I'm going to say for me specifically as a DevOps engineer, is to automate myself out of my job. So if there's a tool that I can use to do that at a more efficient pace, then that's more power to me. Or work smarter, not work harder. So
what do you think bosses, like, what do you think they think about using ChatGPT?
And I feel like they're using it too. They want to write a challenging email. They want to make sure their email is proofread by a professional editor at this point.
What about just like work? Like they assign you something, they expect you to do it. You think they feel some type of way of you using ChatGPT as a crutch or some help?
Labor hours.
Okay.
So, but then it might get to a point where, do we need all these people on our team? We could just get with ChatGPT. Could we get through with just 2 engineers who are very good at prompt engineering? And do we just get rid of the team? But, I mean, I don't think it's going to be that simple, especially if you already have a team. But now, let's say you had job recs out there. So you had 2 open positions, but now oh man, my team is much more efficient now. I don't need those 2 open positions. I feel like that's where we might start seeing some issues.
Yeah, because in that interview, do I need, this nice engineer, or do I want a better Chat GPT typer. You never know.
No facts.
It can switch up in the future.
I guess on that, transitioning to our next subject. So with AI, the better it gets, like in the scare of it replacing our jobs, what would you be if you weren't in tech, or maybe in a field that AI could not replace? Where would you see yourself?
Charles, let me steal that from you. Let me steal it. No, the reason why I want to steal that is because I feel like no one's safe. Yeah. I like to think about, dang, now that Chat GPT could potentially, not even Chat GPT, but AI could possibly replace what I do or make me less marketable, what would I have gone into? I don't know. Well, maybe something physical. It has to be something hands-on, because then it's not just having AI, not just having the software that could do it. You also need the hardware that could do something, some robotics. You need robotics that could do, which is not, society has been at a level where we're pretty good at robotics. So but it now takes somebody, it now costs more to try to integrate something like that. Whereas if you're just somebody who could be replaced by just software and not hardware, you're already pretty replaceable. But I'm gonna let you get back into that, Charles.
Literally, like everything that I did before tech, AI could probably cover it.
Now we was washing cars.
Yeah, that was my next one. I definitely be washing cars. AI can't hand wash a car
for cheaper than I can hand wash a car. He can do it with robotics, but not as cheap as you could do it.
It can send it through the wash. It can do all the polishes, the sealers, but it can't get in between.
It can scratch your car.
Right.
So I feel like I need a timeline. So like, are we talking like 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20? So because
let's start off with the simple question as if you were not in tech right now, if you didn't go through cloud engineering, DevOps engineering, what would you have been into right now?
So I started off going to school for physical therapy. Was it physical therapy? Yeah, physical therapy was my first major, and this is in my.
I talked him out of that, by the way. He doesn't give me credit for that, but I'm the one who pushed him into tech. It was when we
visited that school that I saw that program. That's what taught me. Yeah, I went to, and this is in my DevOps journey video. If you guys want to check that out, it's Workday vlog / how I became a DevOps engineer. But started as physical therapy, didn't like that, so I know I wouldn't be in the medical field. Switched to marketing. Didn't really like that, so I know I wouldn't be in like business, but I think I'd be in construction. Not like as
a construction worker.
Yeah, construction worker, but maybe
a builder,
real estate development. Yeah, maybe a builder, because that's something that also has sparked my interest with some other projects that I started working on as well. So. That's
y'all stay tuned on that. This man's a mad scientist, and he's taking that mad scientist stuff into the world of real estate. So I hope he posts videos on that, because I'm telling y'all, there's some really cool stuff coming.
Yeah, stuff coming in the future. But yeah, I think I'd be in construction.
Yeah, you're better than me.
Real estate development.
You're better than me. I cannot build anything. It took me 4 hours to put up some new blinds the other day.
This man ain't putting his hands on nothing. Talking about, I'm telling you,
he building.
No, he's not building for real. But look, I will say this: real estate is something that also is really cool to be in, depending on what you do within that realm. If you're just like a real estate agent. I think I saw an article. I hate not giving credit, so I won't speak too much on it. But there's a real estate. They posted an article on how you can use Chat GPT as your real estate agent now.
Yeah,
especially now that they're allowing internet searching, allowing you to browse the internet with Chat GPT, and so you're not just limited to the current trained model. I feel like they might be at risk now. But
so how would that work exactly?
But I'm looking for a house with this, and this. That thing will go out and use the mindset of someone who's a real estate agent.
But who's gonna be in the field with you? Who's gonna walk in the backyard, show you all the stuff going
around? You can go out there and do that.
You go out there, and then while you're out there, you're talking to an AI assistant.
Or
not
recording
like-
the yard and all that on camera.
Yeah.
But what Mars is talking about, though, is different. It's like the only thing AI could possibly do in that field is just help you. It could just be some type of assistant, but it cannot replace you because, again, if you're in any of those roles he mentioned, you're probably a business owner. And so at that point, you're trying to look at the best locations to buy property and then develop on that property. AI could help you find that property, and it could probably get you the best connections. But
Yeah, so that might bring up more competition because, like, if you, the barriers to enter into some of these different fields are widening because
You good?
no pause on my behalf.
the barriers to enter into some of these fields are widening because of AI and just how quick you can get that type of information. So,
Yeah.
like, if AI can help me as a real estate developer, what's not stopping it from helping somebody else? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we still have AI denial right now where people believe, oh, AI can't replace me. Or they believe like AI could potentially replace me, but it's far in the future. And I feel like there's two flaws in that. It's the better AI gets, the faster it moves, right? The faster that technology moves. And so when you're iterating that fast, it's almost like you don't know when it's going to reach that level. And so you should start preparing now. So I feel like those people who are, and you're seeing a lot of creativity right now. Everybody's talking about AI because it's hyped up right now.
Yeah.
But again, like I like to mention, this isn't something that is simply just a hype or a trend. This is something that is really shifting and shaping society. And so those people who hop on now and make sure they master it, because it's a lot easier. I always think about in the past where computers were just a command line, right? There was no GUI. If you just use the computer, you're probably now a pro. You're at a higher level than a lot of people who use computers now because nobody's in the command line anymore. They're all using GUIs. And so I'm like, hey, if you're using AI now, you might be the, and again, we're still pretty young, so we don't know how these things actually evolve. But I feel like it might be similar to that, where people who are using that command line, they're now system admins, engineers, because that was just their norm.
They
So
were the
they
front
came
runners of
natural.
that time.
Right.
And then so now people who are using this AI, the AI is not that great. It's cool, but you don't see it actually doing amazing things. But I feel like it'll get to that level. It'll get to the GUI level. I said GUI. I'm going to do this. It'll get to that GUI level where now whoever mastered it early, when it was hard to use it, you had to use this tool, that tool, this tool.
Yeah.
And you had to do all these steps to utilize the tool, get on the Discord, get on the Discord server. Now it's just download the app, dude. You're now going to be more masterful, I believe. So that's why I feel like it isn't something where you should start saying, oh, it's not ever going to replace me. It's going to be this challenging. Hop on it because, again, this isn't one of those things that seem to be a trend in my belief. And see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Use AI. Don't let it use you.
Put them on the
You was
commercial.
thinking of that the whole time.
When's my moment to say that? Oh, man. But I also... Who was it? What company just did layoffs that blamed AI? Was it? I think it was. Let me not say any company names because I might apply. I'm joking. I love my job. But there was recently an organization that said, "Hey, because of AI, we're going to have to do some layoffs, some more layoffs."
That was their reasoning.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out. That's not.
And I don't know how they were able to use that just yet as a reason as to why there's going to be layoffs. In regards to tech layoffs, how is that going to affect everything?
For me personally, I'm not worried about getting laid off. I'm more so worried about the work that's going to triple or double after
Lazy.
layoffs. Because you're gonna be expected to do the same or double work for the same pay because half your team got laid off. So,
Hey, so he not. I'm not worried about getting that. I'm the best. I'm worried about picking up the slack. So I mean, I feel like the tech layoffs are going to affect us. Well, no, not even just us, but the fact that big tech, which is in the past few years, even before the pandemic, has just been growing, has been doing amazing. The fact that they're doing these layoffs, I feel like it's predicting something bad to come.
I
In regards
think
to the
we're
economy.
already in the midst of the bad.
The bad, that's what you think is
So
causing the layoffs?
No, I think we are in the bad right now. Like, this is the bad. So it's not something to come. I feel like we're going through it right now, and it'll be over within the next 2 years.
But now it's a shift of all this amazing talent in the workforce marketplace. And so let's say people who are already struggling finding a position, they're now going up against somebody who was previously at Meta, previously at Coinbase,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
they're previously at Lyft, and now when if I'm going through resumes and I see somebody who is at Meta, I don't know, that might make me, especially when you bring it. I feel like when I was previously at a startup, every time they added somebody into the organization, they talked about their previous accomplishments. So they loved bringing in people who came from big tech, and
Makes them look better.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you're working with people who left this company to come be here. And I feel like, so it's just like that golden standard to have, like, somebody, I recruited somebody who was previously at Meta.
But I feel like they're
Apple.
still in that, prima donna phase, to where they think that, like, if they're coming from Meta and there's maybe like applying for a startup and they're not giving them what they want, they think, I can go this place, I can go this place. I think it hasn't sunk into those people that have been laid off, that you need to take what you get. So, I feel like that for people who aren't coming from like FANG companies and are applying to maybe these startups, that they still have a chance until they transition, and maybe these people wake up and see that maybe this is my only opportunity for now, for the next
Facts.
2 years.
Yeah, but I feel like the problem is with recruiters specific, and not to say there's a problem with recruiters, but I feel like at that recruitment level is where they're going to start saying, let's interview this group of people from FANG versus this group, only because they were at FANG. But now when you get to the hiring manager, you get to the engineers, and they're actually testing your skill, your knowledge, that's where they can start to weed them out. But at that recruiter level, if you made it into those companies, because they're trusted, that team, those organizations are known to hire some of the best.
Yeah.
So it automatically kind of gets that first, if they got here, then they can easily, or if they got into a company like Apple or Google, especially back in the day, Google engineers were almost all brilliant across the board before the overhiring. Of course, that may not always be right, but it's just something that I think may affect.
So do you think that there's like a shift in what's like in demand? So like, I know previously it may have been software engineers or software developers. Do you think like that's more shifting now to maybe data scientists or anybody in machine learning or security?
I don't know.
No.
I have no idea.
I think you're always going to need software engineers because they are the product. They create the product. They improve the product.
Security too. You need people in security,
But security is a cost center. They cost you money. You have them because you have to have them.
Yeah.
If you could get away with not having not having security engineers, you would not have security engineers. Right. But you know that there's hackers out there, so you're like, dang, I gotta have these security team. Software engineers, though,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
For security engineers.
Yeah, it's that. Sadly, or luckily, I should say, in my case, that's what it is. You need us there, so we're vetting these software engineers. They're trying to pump out features and all that, and they have these tight deadlines, so things can be rushed and all of that. So it's important to have security there, and even just the back end information security. So not even just the products. To answer your question, Mars, software engineers in the digital age almost are the business. Because again, they create the product.
Quick question on, so like what happened to like Web3? And I know there was like Web3 front end engineers, and like that seemed like it just fell off as soon as like layoffs started happening, to where I think it was a how do I say this? A pipe dream, maybe.
Web3 was cool, especially in theory and also in implementation. But when something like AI comes around,
Yeah, I just thought of that. Like I think AI just overtook.
it overshadows.
And could you, for those of you at home that aren't familiar with Web3, could you explain that a little bit?
I'll leave that to Mars.
I'll do it to the best of my ability. So Web3 is coming from Web2, obviously. Web2 is what you see.
That was hard to figure out.
Web2 is what you see today when you browse a website, like an e-commerce site, social media site. That's all based off of Web2, which is basic 3-tier application, front end, middle application, and then back end data. Web3, when you go into Web3, that really introduces blockchain technology, and that's the selling point, or the main point of Web3. It's no longer based off of hosting websites off of regular server. It's hosting sites off of blockchain technology. I think that's.
Should I remove this part?
I should have just asked ChatGPT, y'all.
Matter of fact, we might have to do that. No, all jokes aside. We do. This is running pretty long, so I do want to just come to a conclusion of sorts, or at least start that process. And on the topics of layoffs, because that was supposed to be one of our main topics. If God forbid, if you got laid off, if you got laid off next week, what are you doing?
Valet. I'm going straight to the valet. I'm going to some fancy hotel, and I'm running it up as much as I could. Just doing any work that I can find to sustain me. Hopefully my savings will be able to be that cushion for me. But, you know, I got to be in the trenches with it. I gotta work some job, anything that I can find just to sustain me until I can get back to where I was, you know.
Yeah. God forbid. So if I were, you know, I would think I would take maybe a 2-3 month break and just not do anything and kind of like recuperate based off of, you know, you got to prepare for these type of moments. So I have savings set up to where if anything happens, you should have savings set up to where if anything happens, you have at least 3 to 6 months of spending. So, but then the flip side of that, if you think of like what I would want to do is to get into entrepreneurship. So we talked a little bit about this earlier about real estate development, and it's hard to do that with no income coming in. I think that's hard for me. I think I'll flip between either like taking a break because I think it's needed, and then trying to get another job in order to fund entrepreneurship, or even just going straight into entrepreneurship based off of how my funds are set up.
I won't even lie to you guys. I'm going to beef up my LinkedIn and then back to the rat race. No, I'm joking. I actually will do that probably, but at the same time, there are some ventures that I do want to get into. I have some interest that I've been slowly trying to invest in. And so that might be time, that might give me time to kind of really give it 100% rather than just 30%, 20%, and see where that takes me. And if that lifts off, then I may not need to rejoin the rat race and be able to basically my own thing.
Would you go back to part-time?
Like outside of tech?
Yeah.
I'm not as willing as Charles is to go back. That man said valet.
See, in my mind, I was thinking of a time where there are like no tech jobs.
No, we're talking about tomorrow.
Now, then I'll do the same. I'll be on LinkedIn. I'll be on Monster.
This man said Monster. Does that still exist?
No, I think I've held good enough relationships in my past roles to where like I hope if something happens, I can go back to a previous company that I might have worked for. So I think if that's probably my worst case scenario is going back into the work field. I think my first case is to get into business or entrepreneurship. Camera's about to die.
All right, guys, the camera just died, which means we've probably been talking too much.
Yeah.
So we really hope you enjoyed the episode. We have way more content to come. Again, we're just, a couple of fellas out here chilling, vibing.
Yes, sir.
We're in the workforce, so we take time after work to kind of put this together. If you have any advice or questions, make sure you reach out, leave it in the comments. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, go to our YouTube channel and leave a comment if you have any questions. But thank you for listening, and have a great one.
Peace.
Thanks.